Welcome back. So today, just finished up this wolf. Bring it a little closer so you can see. Finished up this little howling wolf with mountains and sky and the moon and all that. Carved in them. Not too hard. Once you get everything set up, it's just basically getting everything worked on beforehand. Like spray paint it down, sanding the MDF before you even spray paint. I like to sand with 120 grit in there. That way it smooths everything out. And I'll have a comparison of like non-sanded versus sanded MDF in this as well. It should be following. But these sell really well. So I like to carve these out and always have, you know, a few on hand. There's all sorts of different animals. There's bears, there's eagles, there's, you know, elk, fish, all sorts of other things. Not necessarily with the same design, but kind of the same theme with the mountains and night sky and stars and all that. So kind of just depends on your preference. I found that the wolf, for whatever reason, sells really well. The bears do well. The elk, not so much. I think just because they're pretty big and like it's a full elk. But I don't know why I've never really had good luck with them. But the wolves, bears, eagles are okay. But I just like to make sure I have several on hand and they end up going out pretty well. So if you're interested on how I made this, I'll also get into the software side of it as well here in just a minute and kind of show you how I set it up and the settings and everything that I'm using to carve this out. But other than that, any questions, leave them down in the comment section below and I'll get back to you on that. Hopefully I do answer everything, but if you have any other questions, comments on the video, let me know down below and I'll get back to you. Alright, so here's the wolf in the software. This is what he'll look like once I cut him out. So we can go back over here to the 2D tab. I've adjusted some of this. When I had the file, there wasn't a lot of the circles down below. It was kind of bland. There wasn't the star over here. And some of these as well were tinkered with. But we can get into the main portion of it. It's the V-carve. So I went with a flat depth of 0.2. Where this really will come into play is the mountains right here. If you don't set a flat depth and just kind of want the V-bit and the computer to do its thing, it'll put a hole in this 1/2-inch board that I'm using. So I figured about 0.2 inches deep is good enough to get the contrast of the mountains and everything and the trees that are right in here, to get that look to pop. You can go deeper, you can go shallower, just kind of depends on what you want. If you're gonna go shallower and not paint the wolf first, then that could probably work. I don't know if I'd go too much shallower painting the wolf first. It just doesn't give that good 3D look to it. So, I mean, with that, I have my V-bit here, 0.2 depth, and I have everything in here selected minus this outline. So if you need to select everything instead of struggling, like if you struggle trying to get everything in here selected, even holding shift and all that, just a real quick tip, highlight everything and then hit shift and click and you can get that line unselected pretty quick. Because if you leave that line in, hit calculate, it's gonna look a lot different than what it should. So once it processes, all right, so if we left that line in, here's what it would look like instead. So you see how it inverted everything. So instead of the mountains being cut in and the trees being cut in, it outlined them and then cut in the stars and everything, which to me looks terrible. So that's the big thing with the line. Easy to check. You can always go back and fix your toolpath to unselect that line, but you know, just in case you need to know, again, shift click, everything else will stay highlighted. You're good to go. Calculate it and move on. All right, so then we can go back to the 2D, click out of that and look at profile. So profile is the outside line. Came over here, cut depth 0.5. It should really be probably 0.53, just enough to cut past. I have a 1/4 inch carbide bit from Align Carbide, nothing fancy. 3 passes, which I should have updated but didn't. It can cut through this in 1 pass, so let's go fix that. That's the good thing with the compression bits. They're made for this exact thing. On the outside right of the line is my selection. You can see this box move inside and then on. I mean, pretty basic stuff. Just be sure outside, if you do on, it's going to get real close to the edging of these lines right in here. And then those lines over there may cut into them and look different. So don't do on. Inside definitely will probably start touching because it's a 1/4 inch bit and there's not that much space in between. So outside starts on the outside of the line, obviously, and just goes all the way around. You can click on your toolpath and it'll show you the direction it's going and how it's going to look. Tabs, if you're not taping it down or double-sided sticky tape or some other type of thing, tabs are a nice thing to have. So you can see like a tab here and a tab there and a tab there and one over here. You can edit tabs, come in here and you can select how many you want, the constant distance between them, min-max type of thing. You can also delete all the tabs if you didn't want them. So one thing to play around with. On this one, however, if you pay attention to it, this tab down here is not gonna help because it's gonna put a tab, but it's also not connected to anything. So it'll have a little bit of a tab, but then the whole bit's coming off the edge, so it's gonna cut away. This tab right here looks like it's doing something, but again, this piece is going to cut off here and here, so then this will be free floating, so that tab's not going to do anything. Again, this tab and this tab actually probably will help once you're clamped down, because it has this big space that you can put some pressure on to keep everything in line. So just be aware of that on like where it puts your tabs. The tabs may not actually help you at all because it's off the thing and it won't actually be attached to any extra piece of wood that you're clamping onto. So for something like this, I would recommend almost doing CA glue, blue tape trick, or the double-sided sticky tape, just because it's going to be tough to clamp down and not have it move. The first time I actually did this file, that's exactly what happened. Was it cut this one off and it cut wherever that other one was over here, and then like I noticed this piece start moving a little bit, so I had to hold the whole thing down for a pass while it finished cutting, which I mean isn't terrible because I was standing right there, but just be aware of that if you aren't close to it or you go inside for a quick second and it's starting to go, this may move, and if that moves and hits your router bit, bad things might happen. So just be aware. And then other than that, you can add ramps to the toolpath. I did not. Personal preference really on ramps. Some people like them, some don't. Some drawings actually need them. I didn't feel this one needed it, so I just left it off and it was fine. So that's my oh, hold on. Let me get my tool speeds and feeds here. So 18,000 RPMs on the 1/4 inch compression bit, going 120 by 60, and that's going to give me 0.003. I try to keep it in the 0.003 to 0.004 range, so anything in there I found works the best from all the videos I've seen in my testing. Let me get to the V bit. So V bit, 1800 125 by 62 seems to work pretty good for this. V bits are a tad different. That could probably go even faster since it does have 3 flutes. Not sure why that's so slow, but I'll look into that. But that's where I start, and then I'll speed up or slow down depending on what it's looking like, just the different types of material, but this is a good starting point for V-bits. A lot of the time, depending on what you're doing, you can't really get up to speed on the feed rate, like those little dots back here. It's just going in and basically pecking them. So you're not going to get the speed anyways, so this one doesn't really matter. The mountains and stuff, it might get there, or this outline, it might get there, but these dots, it's definitely not doing anything. So that is how I set up this file, what the file looks like. 16 by 9, I cut it just a tad wider than that just to get everything in. I think I gave about an I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch on each side. But let's get into actually making it. And and if you have any questions on how I set this up, let me know. Put the comments down below and I'll get back to them. Hey, jumping in here real quick, wanted to I wanted to point out one thing with this carve. When you paint MDF and you're gonna cut into it, so the MDF down below is either gonna be the normal MDF color, or you're gonna paint down there as well. The top layer of MDF, I have found over doing this for quite a bit, you need to sand first and then paint. So I have 2 examples that I should be showing over here of exactly that. So the one laying down and that is flat and looks good, I sanded before painting, and then the other one was just cut to size, painted, just so you could see that sometimes there is a difference on that top layer. It might not always be smooth, or there may be something. So just a real quick sanding with 120 grit is what I do. And so once I do the real quick 120 grit and paint it, it looks like that first one, or the bottom one that's laying flat. The one that's kind of on an angle is the non-sanded one. And you can see this one I got lucky and it was really bad, but you can tell the difference in how good the bottom one looks versus that one. So for my test it worked out great. I'm going to go back, resand that with 120, and then I'm going to paint it again and get it looking like it should.